Today's panel discussion is titled The Next Step in Stir and Shaken. It is being moderated by Douglas Rinaldi. Douglas is the founder of NetNumber. He also serves as Vice President of Products and Strategy for NetNumber Global Data Services. Rinaldi founded the company with the goal of simplifying the migration of SS7 and C7 signaling to next generation signaling while enabling service providers to continue to use telephone numbers to identify subscribers. Rinaldi provides the vision for simplifying the complex service control problem faced by all communication service providers. Finding a way to take complex technical subject and make it easy to understand is one of his greatest strengths. Rinaldi's ability to look at a highly complex system and identify ways to simplify the environment has led him to start several successful companies, including Fax International, an international fax over IP service provider, and Student Life, a magazine for college students that was purchased by Time in 1987. Rinaldi has been awarded 5 communications-related patents, and he is the subject of several case studies developed by Harvard Business School that are incorporated into MBA programs around the world. Rinaldi holds a BS with distinction in industrial engineering from Cornell University and an MBA from Harvard Business School. He is the recipient of Baker Scholar Award, Harvard's highest honor for business school graduates. Doug, over to you.
Well, Richard, that was great. Thank you very much for that glowing introduction. I hope I will live up to it in today's presentation. So today, for everyone, I'm going to give a quick introduction to NetNumber as a company. It's just going to be 3 slides. And then we're going to jump into what I think is a really interesting demo of early implementation of enterprise STIRSHAKEN. But bear with me while I give you the background on NetNumber. So NetNumber is a core network software vendor. We deliver signaling control solutions to carriers all around the world, 300 employees. We've been in this business for over 20 years at this point. Our Titan signaling control platform is deployed in 300 networks around the world today. We're in most of the large communications groups that run the world's networks today, fulfilling multiple functions. Specifically in Canada, we're deployed in 11 networks in Canada already today, using a variety of services from our STP DSC routing infrastructure to our data services like enum, DNS, number portability, security services, subscriber services, and intelligent control point services. Also in Canada, we've got customers utilizing a variety of our data services. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to give us a chance to speak today. On the NetNumber Titan platform, we operate a little over 20 applications today. So what makes NetNumber unique in this signaling control space is we have a single multi-protocol platform called Titan that can be deployed as any one of 20 functions in your core network. And in general, customers license Titan and then activate more than one of these services. I think our average today is 5 functions are licensed by the average customer. And those range across core network signaling, security and routing, subscriber data management, access and session management, and then a variety of customer-defined solutions. We also shrink down the Titan footprint for deployment in private networks. Now today we're here to talk about STIRSHAKEN. So since NetNumber operates the Titan platform that sits in the core of the network and is typically involved in multiple aspects of call session establishment, STIRSHAKEN is a critical component of what we do. So as a company, we've approached STIRSHAKEN with the vision of attacking what we consider the 5 layers of the solution. First is the national layer. I think most people on the call are experienced with this. In order for a country to participate, you have to deploy a policy administrator, the STIPA, and at least one root certificate authority, or STICA. So NetNumber has developed those two platforms. In the United States, we are one of the, I believe at this point, 6 approved STICAs. As STIRSHAKEN rolls around the world, we'll bid on these policy administrator and certificate authority functions on a country-by-country basis. Now that represents foundation for the core of STIRSHAKEN, which is service provider. Now in this space, our brand name for STIRSHAKEN services is Guaranteed Caller. So you see all of our services are prefaced by that Guaranteed Caller brand name. In the service provider space, we're signing and authenticating calls. That's critical foundation in the IP network. In addition to that, we've got legacy infrastructures, TDM, whereby we're going to look for opportunities as an industry to bring TDM traffic into the STIRSHAKEN domain. Here's a great opportunity for NetNumber to take the strengths of that Titan platform we have and enable our customers to interface with their TDM infrastructure and bridge to STIRSHAKEN. Looking beyond the service provider space, we see a robust area of activity in enterprises, specifically complex enterprise use cases where an enterprise has a desire to source telephone numbers from multiple networks or a desire to route traffic into the public network through multiple service providers. These represent complex cases where it's really quite difficult for an originating service provider to know who is the enterprise customer. And today, we're going to go through a really exciting proof of concept implementation of how, as an industry, we could support these complex enterprise use cases in a standardized fashion. And then finally, from an international perspective, as we introduce STIRSHAKEN into the United States and Canada, international carriers are going to have to learn how to get their calls signed as they route into our STIRSHAKEN regions. NetNumber has got our Titan platform deployed as a centralized routing engine in 16 out of the top 20 interconnect carriers in the world. So we think there's a great opportunity here for us to help those international carriers identify calls that can achieve STIRSHAKEN A attestation, get that implemented so that when those calls reach the US or Canadian STIRSHAKEN domains, they can be trusted. So that's enough background on NetNumber. I'm going to turn now to our demo of end-to-end enterprise STIRSHAKEN services. But to do so, I needed a really impressive collection of panelists to support me, because as a company, we weren't interested in just building a NetNumber solution. We're interested in participating in an ecosystem that leverages standards, because we're really trying to restore trust to all calls in the public network. That can't be done by one company. It takes a whole ecosystem. So today, we've got representatives from Comcast, Twilio, Everbridge, and Numerical joining me to help us walk through how complex enterprise calls can be managed in a standardized fashion. So before I turn on a demo, I want to give the panelists a chance to introduce themselves, just tell you a little bit about their companies and the role they'll play today. So first, let me introduce Rebecca Johnson, CEO of Numerical. Rebecca?
Thank you, Doug. And again, thank you for this opportunity to where we can showcase how the industry as a whole has to come together to make this work. So I'm super excited. From Numerical's perspective, we are focused on the verification and vetting of enterprises and leveraging our entity identity management platform in order to manage their RCD data as the ecosystem continues to evolve and players like those participating today innovate around the delivery of this information. We will be ready and prepared for the enterprise to control that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca, and thanks for joining today. Next, I've got Jeff Templeton, who's Chief Architect of the Voice Platform at Everbridge. Jeff. Hey, Jeff, I'm sorry if you can hear us.
I am muted. Yep. I am the architect for the voice platform at Everbridge. We deliver calls on our customers' behalf that are generally critical in nature. So going into this, certainly the primary driver for us is be able to ensure A-level attestation for the calls we're delivering on our customers' behalf.
Yeah, that's great, Jeff. I'm going to want you to spend more time talking about that. After we run through this 4-minute demo, we're going to come back and look at the solution diagram. And I'd like you to weigh in more on those challenges of the role that you play in supporting thousands of enterprises that need that attestation. Next, from Twilio, we've got Christopher Falgren, Senior Software Architect at Twilio. Christopher.
Yes, my name is Christopher Falgren. I'm a Senior Software Architect at Twilio, and I help lead the implementation of STIRSHAKEN at Twilio. So for those of you who don't know Twilio is a communications platform as a service, helping our customers access communications platforms like telephony. And we're also a service provider in the US and part of the STIRSHAKEN ecosystem officially since April of this year. And we've been super happy to work together with these great partners in this POC. And we're strong believers in the ability for enterprises to sign their own calls. So, and we believe delegated certificates like this POC is showing is important in this case.
Thank you, Christopher. And finally, from Comcast, Cha Lee, Senior Principal Engineer at Comcast. And Cha, before you start, I think you have a slide you'd like to show. Would you like me to?
Yeah, at the end, I'll show just a picture showing my connection with Canada. But before that, let me just quickly introduce Comcast and our work in this area. So Comcast has been a leader and pioneer in STIRSHAKEN. We are the first that put the open source code there out for everyone's reference. Also, we have been co-chairing the ATIS and IPNNI and making all the major contribution to IETF. And I have been leading the implementation for STIRSHAKEN within Comcast since 2017. Right now, our STIRSHAKEN cover our residential and SMB customer. We continue to expand the coverage to other services as well to meet our FCC mandate next year. In addition to that, we see the need for expanding the STIRSHAKEN there to cover the solution for enterprise end-to-end, also to carry additional information. So very glad to join the industry-wide effort there, having the opportunity. And I just want to mention that glad to have a Canadian audience today. And I've not been new to actually with the just want to mention that last year, we had a very first cross-border STIRSHAKEN demonstration between EduPi and Ian Scott, right? Ian Scott of CRTC. And I was on the US side at that time, and this was a picture taken then. So just want to feel that spatial connection with Canada. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Stop the sharing. All right, back to you, Doc.
Okay, thank you, Cha. And then quickly from a NetNumber perspective, in this demo, NetNumber's role is to provide enterprise STIRSHAKEN certificate management services, and those are delegate certificates and call signing services. You'll see what that means in more detail when we go through this demo. So I'm going to now run about a 4-minute demo that we recorded earlier this week. And then at the end of it, I'll switch back to the overall architecture slide, and then we can take question and answers for the panelists from the audience. Ecosystem. The objective of today's call is to show how an Everbridge enterprise customer can initiate an outbound call through Everbridge using resources that could be assigned to Everbridge or to the enterprise. Everbridge takes action to have this outbound call signed with a RCD passport that contains all the information necessary to identify the originating enterprise. Everbridge adds that RCD passport to their SIP invite that they send into their originating service provider. Now, Everbridge, for business reasons, distributes traffic to many service providers. So the ability to add an RCD passport, Everbridge power to route traffic to multiple different service providers in a common, standardized fashion. In today's demo, we'll see Twilio, acting as the originating service provider, receive the invite with the signed RCD passport. They'll validate that passport, add their own STIRSHAKEN passport, and then forward the invite with both a STIRSHAKEN passport and RCD passport to Comcast as the terminating service provider. Comcast verifies both passports, extracts the rich call data, and presents the rich call data to the end user device. In today's demo, you'll actually see the call originated by Everbridge and terminated to the device with the rich call data. In this particular proof of concept, Everbridge has registered themselves as the enterprise customer. So the information that will be presented is actually Everbridge as the originating customer. In this case, Everbridge is fulfilling both the function of the enterprise and the business process outsourcing company that initiates the call. So with that introduction, I'm going to switch over to the Comcast team, ask them to display the end user device, and then we're going to ask Everbridge to initiate a call, and then we'll examine the result. Fantastic. Then Jeff Templeton from Everbridge, would you please do us the honor of initiating the call, and let's see the end result of all these industry participants working together to produce a spectacular result. Aha, and there it is. So give me a second to explain what's actually going on here. Here you see Everbridge presented with a verification mark. So this is the essence of STIRSHAKEN. Everbridge is presented as a trusted caller, and all the information about Everbridge is presented. Their calling party number, the reason for the call, and their logo. Pawan, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you to all of the participants who joined us on the call today. Thank you for your time. Bear with me. There we go. And okay. So there you saw it. End-to-end demo of a call initiated by Everbridge on behalf of an enterprise using information that was vetted and verified by Numerical, signed through NetNumber, passed to Twilio as a signed RCD passport, verified by Twilio, then subsequently re-signed by Twilio as the originating service provider, and both passports passed through to Comcast for the end user display. So with that, let me stop for a moment and jump back to Richard to see, do we have any questions yet from the audience, or would you like me to just jump into asking questions of the panelists?
Yeah, Doug, I don't see any questions here quite yet, but we'll give it maybe 10 seconds here, see if anything pops up. But if you want to start maybe asking questions of the panel, and that'll get things going with the audience, that'd be great.
I would. So Rebecca, I'm going to start with you since you initiated this process. Would you describe a little bit about what's involved with the role that Numerical plays here that I've labeled as item A? Tell us about that onboarding process, the work you do with the industry. Just tell us a little bit more about how do complex enterprise use cases get vetted so we know we can trust them.
Yep. So part of why we don't have trust within this framework is because anonymity exists. Transferring the identity of whoever is calling down to the terminating device is what we're solving for. So Numerical focuses on the enterprise side with regards to verifying and vetting that they are who they say they are, issuing an identity associated with that, on top of validating the RCD information and the authorization for the use of numbers. We are the entry point of that. The trust cannot be delivered unless we have solutions such as what NetNumber has provided by encapsulating that within the framework. That is a key element. So each one of us is a portion of traveling and delivering that trust down to the end consumer device, as we saw through Comcast demo. So that's Numerical's focus, is to be that source of truth. We believe that belongs with the enterprise, with the entity, and they should also be managing their identity as well. And that's our role in this.
And Rebecca, when you're capturing that data, you're identifying all the different TN resources that are being used. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. They know who they are, so we provide that aspect of it along with their identity. So it takes two elements in order for an A-level attestation to be applied. So looking at step B, from NetNumber's perspective, we've got a robust API between Numerical's onboarding portal and NetNumber's certificate management services. So through that API, Numerical onboards new customers and their complex relationships. NetNumber's job is to take that data and first verify the TN assignments through the TN service providers that issued the numbers. Today, we do that through a relationship with Somos. They have a new service that they're introducing with STIRSHAKEN called Real Number. That's how we implemented that TN verification in today's demo. Once it's been verified, NetNumber creates a delegate certificate for each enterprise vetted by Numerical and each source of TNs. So if an enterprise is getting TNs from multiple providers, we issue multiple certificates. Each certificate is specifically limited to the TN resources that the enterprise is allowed to use. Once those certificates exist, the call signing service that we operate uses the certificates to generate signed RCD passports on request. So here's where we get to Everbridge in their platform had to integrate the concept of STIRSHAKEN into their outbound calling process. So Jeff, could you just describe for us a little bit about the work you did to integrate STIRSHAKEN into your platform?
Sure. Yeah. And Doug, NetNumber certainly made it easy. So Really, for us, it was a matter of, just figuring out the right part in our process when we're originating these calls to reach out to a NetNumber API. We basically make a request with the current information, the originating and destination TN, and what we get in return is the identity header. And it's fairly simple then for us to inject that into the SIP request to the OSP. So it's really fairly straightforward from our side to implement this.
And Jeff, do you take advantage of distributing traffic to multiple networks, or does all your traffic go to Twilio?
No, we are absolutely using multiple OSPs in multiple countries, in multiple regions in North America. So how we route that traffic comes down to some rules-based decisions on our side, as well as real-time analytics. But yeah, we are definitely distributing this traffic across multiple OSPs.
I think that's one of the aspects of this solution I find compelling, that we're trying to build solutions that can scale quickly across the whole ecosystem. And by Everbridge making the investment in having its calls signed with an RCD passport, that passport can then be passed to any number of originating service providers that you work with, and the behavior of the originating service provider is always the same. So with that, let's turn to Krister Fahlgren at Twilio. And Krister, can you tell us a little bit about the experience from Twilio as the OSP here, receiving that RCD passport? What do you do with it, and what does it accomplish for you?
Yes. So this is really a great step for Twilio. So Twilio can easily sign for all the numbers that Twilio owns, meaning generating an A attestation for every number that we own. We can easily do because we know our customers and we know which numbers we are in control of. But we have many customers, just like Everbridge, who wants to originate calls with caller IDs, numbers that Twilio don't own. So I think this is a great example of a way for Twilio to know that Everbridge owns this phone number. So when we receive this RCD passport and we see that this RCD passport is signed with a certificate from NetNumber, we know that this is legitimate. This caller ID is owned and vetted to be owned by Everbridge. So, and the technical implementation is kind of boring. It is straightforward in that we verify this signed passport. And then once we have verified it, we simply do what we normally do, which is put a shaken passport with an A attestation as we forward it to the TSP. So that's the big thing about this. It's enabling us to trust other sort of multi-homing scenarios. So that's a great step forward in our view.
Krister, thank you. It was a great description. Now, finally, the call, after all this work, call shows up at Comcast. And Cha, you've been a big advocate in the standards process for getting a standardized mechanism of passing this enterprise data, in addition to the standardized mechanism we have for passing service provider set attestation. So you've been an advocate of passing both of these passports. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and how you use the two passports to generate that complex display that we saw in the demo?
Yes, so currently STIRSHAKEN, right, the way it is a one-stage authentication mechanism there, and only function between service provider from the OSP to the TSP. We see the need there, and we're extending the model to a two-stage authentication. I think actually implicitly shown here. So maybe it's in the same place, but very often it's in different place, that the origination where the system or the serving server have an intimate knowledge of the authenticity of the coder and where this code actually been signed. So we certainly see a great value here for the two-stage authentication model here. For the first stage, that who has an intimate knowledge of the customer and part of the know your customer scheme, or eventually through a vetting process that could vouch for the authenticity and with all the information, right? Not just the calling number, but all the logos and the call reason, etc. And when the call hit the OSP, the OSP can put another shaken on top of it. So we see it will give us a cross-form solution there for the end-to-end authentication and validation.
John, thank you. So Richard, I'm going to turn back to you because I know we only have a 30-minute slot and we have hit our 30 minutes. So if you have any wrap-up comments for us, that'd be great.
Just give it another 15 seconds here for any questions from the audience. I'm not seeing anything coming in quite yet. Just give another moment here. I think that might be it, Doug, but thank you very much for your excellent presentation. We really appreciate you and the panel coming out here and speaking with us today. On behalf of CTS, we'd like to invite you to our next panel or our next keynote discussion happening at 3:15. This is going to be Chairman and CEO Ian Scott from the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission. And we'll see you there in just a few minutes. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.